Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. I can still see the ticker rolling, and many of you are still joining us. But as always committed, we're going to start exactly in time. So the ones who've logged in do not have to wait. Uh, we're living in very strange times, and somebody said that you don't choose the challenges that you face, but you can choose how to face the challenges that come your way. And in the last 2 months, we've seen this community of teachers really rising up to these challenges, treating them as opportunities. And what a paradigm shift it has been. A sort of a boot camp where all of you were taken completely unaware and you adapted to the new situation brilliantly and have been in learning mode perhaps like never before. FICCI Arise is the education wing of FICCI. As some of you may be aware, FICCI is a voice of industry body and was launched in 1927, almost 100 years ago, at the behest of Mahatma Gandhi himself. And the the mission of the organization has been to bring about positive policy change for the upliftment of the country in all spheres of economic development. And Arise was formed about 4 years ago, and it is actually around reimagining education. And the webinars have been one big step for us. This is the fourth in the series, and we've had a great viewership, a lot of response from all of you. And at this point of time, I want to express my gratitude to all the teachers around the world, particularly the ones who've joined this webinar. You are real heroes in these times. And I think hats off to everything that you've been able to do. And I really admire your spirit of learning. I thank you for joining the webinar and showing that spirit. Today, we're going to talk about assessments. And I'm going to hand over to Pallavi, who's the moderator of the session, to take it from here. Over to you, Pallavi.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Manit. Living in very strange times indeed. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome on behalf of Hire to today's webinar. My name is Pallavi Dwivedi, and I'm the founder of Hire. We are a teacher professional development and evaluation company, and we work with schools and educators around the world to ensure that quality teaching reaches every classroom. I'd like to thank FICCI Arise for bringing us on board this very exciting initiative to connect educators and to share classroom ideas that have worked as schools have moved online. We're at the halfway mark now, as Manit said, for the FICCI Arise Hire webinar series. We've done talking about planning and engaging your students online, and today we're going to talk about assessments. We'll ideate on how to check for understanding online and keep a track of student progress. We'll explore strategies that meet different assessment needs and also look at what sort of tools you can use to achieve these online. Please note that today's session recordings will be available to all of you. They will be emailed, and you'll also be receiving a resource bank in the form of a Padlet. I'm delighted to be sharing today's space with 4 extremely innovative educators on our panel. I'd like you to welcome Mr. Parmod Kumar. He's the State Program Officer in the Department of School Education, the Government of Haryana. We also have with us Ms. Kanika Kapoor. She's the Junior Coordinator at the City Montessori School, Rajajipuram in Lucknow. All the way from Peru, we have with us Ms. Abril Dulud Matos. Abril is the Head of Design at the Newton College in Lima. We also have with us a middle school math faculty, Ms. Chitra Balaji. Chitra is teaching at the Delhi Public School in Nashik. So that's our panelists for today. And without further ado, I'd like to get started with today's discussions. And I'll be starting sharing my screen just now. So just give me a moment while I get that going. and we'll get started with what we're going to be talking about today. Right, so when we're looking at designing online assessments, our objective in today's session is primarily going to be how we can look at designing some quality assessments for this new normal of online teaching and learning, as well as taking some of these practices back into our classrooms when schools reopen. And we're also going to look at how we can check for student understanding. I'd like to start today's discussion by proposing an alternative view on assessments. We typically look at assessments as grades, as ways in which to see how much a student has learned. And I'd like to suggest that we look at assessments as windows instead of looking at them as doors. So treating them more as an opportunity to understand or get a look into what students are actually doing, how they're doing that, and not simply a milestone or something or a hurdle that they need to cross to get to somewhere else. And if we look at assessments from that standpoint, we're able to understand that assessments play a really, really crucial role in being able to determine how well our students are learning what we're teaching them, and also get some very, very important insights into actually recalibrating or tweaking our own teaching practices. So today we're going to look at the role that assessments play in our classroom, how we can assess our students, the importance of feedback when it comes to assessments, as well as tracking student progress. So each of our teacher panelists today are going to be talking about each of these different things and how they've gone about doing them in their classrooms themselves. We start with talking about how are you assessing your student. Now we typically have, as we understand, 3 types of assessments: a diagnostic assessment, a formative assessment, and a summative assessment. A diagnostic assessment evaluates what a student knows before you bring them on to a new concept or a new skill set. This is useful typically to identify all the prior knowledge that a student brings to your classroom. And also it also enables you to understand where the student's learning will begin. So a baseline in very many ways, and it allows you to then measure the student's growth over a period of time. So it's important for you to know where the student is actually starting out when you're starting your unit or your lesson, and then track that student's progress in terms of the skills and concepts they've been able to develop. Formative assessments play a very, very crucial role in evaluating periodically at specific intervals how is it that the student is doing when it comes to the new skills or knowledge or concepts that you are driving in the classroom. This typically helps us quickly check to see how much of what you taught the student has been able to grasp. What are the gaps in the student's learning? What are some areas that are emerging as potential strengths that the student can actually go ahead and play on? What are some of these areas that you need remediation? How can you assist the student in fixing or plugging these gaps or these holes in their learning? And very importantly, also setting goals with your student. You need to be able to understand how much the student can do and communicate that to the student as well. And then help them design a strategy which will help them achieve better learning outcomes. So formative assessments play a very, very crucial role there. And lastly, we've got summative assessments that actually evaluate the specific skills that a student has been able to achieve towards the end of a unit or a particular semester as well. So you'll also include your end semester exams or your unit tests within summative assessments. And this is typically measuring the student against a set of standards or a set of prerequisites that or learning outcomes that a particular grade level or a particular unit level they were supposed to obtain these by the end of that. And you'd notice that the first 2 types actually bring us into understanding the role that assessments play, as well as the summatives. So when you're looking at diagnostic and formative assessments, you're using assessments for learning as well as learning. And when you're looking at summative assessments, you're looking at assessments of learning. What do I mean when I talk about assessments for, of, and as learning? These are typically the roles that your assessments play. When I talk about assessment for learning, This is my diagnostic and formatives. These are ways in which assessments provide immediate feedback to the learner, that's your student, as well as to me as a teacher. What kind of learning is actually happening? What skills are being developed? Where do I need to recalibrate my teaching? What do I need to change? What is not working for me? What is not working for my students? And when I look at assessments as learning, this is when I start developing my students' metacognitive processes of being able to actually assess their own learning. How am I empowering my student to be able to understand how much they've understood and what they need to do to be able to grow further, to be able to achieve better performance? And this typically involves a lot of self-examination and self-reflection, and that we build into our classroom formatives as well as diagnostics, and get the students to reflect and understand where their skill gaps currently lie and what their strengths are. We can also use peer assessments at this point in time, because giving feedback to somebody else also involves thinking deeply about what that means for you as a learner as well. And lastly, we look at assessment of learning, which typically gauges the results against these established markers or learning outcomes and objectives towards the end of your lesson or your unit, and are largely performance based. And most of your traditional assessments tend to fall into this category. Finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about was the importance of feedback. Assessments are absolutely useless if we're not giving students feedback. It's like giving a student an opportunity to understand where they stand and then leaving them absolutely clueless with all of that data and all of those markers, and them not being able to know, so what should I do from here? Where should I go from here? And that's where your feedback becomes really, really crucial. What does good feedback look like? Good feedback would typically be timely. If students have given an assessment today, be it a formative assessment or a diagnostic assessment, they'd want to know how they did. They look forward to receiving that. Ideal time between feedback and assessment is typically 3 days. We should aim to give students feedback on all assessments between the day of the assessment and 3 days. Assessments should also have goal-directed feedback. This typically helps the students see where they were supposed to get and where they are right now, and what should they do to be able to match that gap. Feedback should necessarily be descriptive, and very, very specific descriptions at that. Simply saying stuff like, you could have elaborated on this. What does elaboration here mean? Giving students that specific descriptive feedback helps them understand better what they need to do. And another very important part of this is, and when I gave you that example right now, I did that on purpose. When you use language such as you could have elaborated, this becomes very personal. So give feedback on the task or on the assignment and not on the student. So using language that helps the student distance themselves from the assignment is actually more motivating and less denigrating for a student to be able to receive that kind of feedback. So giving feedback in the form of, this assignment could have done with more elaboration on the certain aspects that you need elaboration on, works better than simply saying you could have elaborated. Ongoing feedback is really crucial, because this helps students keep coming back to things that they should have improved, things that they have actually been able to improve, and go back and see how far they've come. So constant inputs into the feedback that you're giving is really, really crucial. And lastly, feedback should be collaborative. The students should be able to question you on why you gave the feedback that you gave them. It shouldn't be a one-way process. And they should also be able to engage with you to understand how they could do better. A tool that I thought I'd share with all of you, 2 tools. First one being Floop for student-led feedback, and the second one being Kaizena for voice recorded feedback. The Padlet that I spoke to you about, where we'll put in all our resources and park them, you will be receiving that towards the end of the session today, and there will be some useful tips and strategies on how to use both Kaizena as well as Floop, and I encourage you to go out there and explore these tools to give to have an interesting way of giving your students feedback. And last but not the least, when students are not progressing, what should you do? pre-teach, peer teach, and reteach. And with that, I'd like to invite our panelists to actually delve deeper into each of these different aspects and show you what they've been doing in their own classrooms to be able to assess their own students and track their progress. So to begin our discussion for today, I'd like to first invite Mr. Pramod Kumar, who will be giving us some inputs into how the government schools, specifically in Haryana, have been looking at assessments and what are some innovative practices that you have been employing towards that. Over to you, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar, we're not able to hear you. It's still, the voice is still not very clear. Mr. Kumar, are you able to hear us?
Hello.
Yes, if we could just move the mic slightly closer to when you're speaking, we should be able to hear you now.
Okay. It's working now?
Slightly audible, but not very well.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank to PKRI and especially Panvi and Team Hire. Actually, you explained very well. The presentation regarding the assessment, it was wonderful and more than my expectations. Now I'm coming to government school practices. Malik explained very well. During this COVID-19 pandemic, teachers are doing wonderful work. They were not familiar with all the things earlier. They were doing their traditional teaching. They were imparting their traditional teaching, but in the last week of March, they have to shift their entire mechanism, entire system, entire knowledge in an online way. If we compare the public school system, especially the government school system, okay, I'm getting the comments that my voice is not clear. So my request, you please call the another panelist. I will check my mic and come again. Pallavi?
Sure, Mr. Kumar. We'll get started with another panelist first.
Sure.
So can I and we'll just quickly come back to you as soon as your audio is fixed.
Sure.
Okay, so can I ask Chitra to get started with her presentation and talk about what she's been doing over at DPS Nashik?
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Pallavi. I'll start sharing my screen now. Is he not able to share?
Chitra, your mic is on mute. Can I ask you to please unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm not able to share. I cannot see the icons here.
Don't worry. I'll share your PPT and you can get started with your presentation.
Okay. I think sir needs to stop sharing or something.
He already has. He stopped sharing.
Okay.
Over to you, Chitra.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Sorry for the snafu. Before I begin with my presentation, I would like to tell you all that when Delhi Public School Nasik decided to go in for online learning, then we decided in consultation with the parents that we would not be assigning grades to the students for their assessments, but rather would be giving them feedback, which would actually motivate them in this online learning journey. Now, with this thought in mind, I would like to share with you, the next slide, please, the benefits of online learning. The next slide, please, Pallavi.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, online learning gives enriched and interactive learning experiences to the learners because the teachers get many opportunities to be creative in the way they deliver and what they deliver. And at the same time, it gives them the advantage of reusing their assessments and makes data collection and analysis much easier. Again, this leads to student-directed learning because students are now motivated with the real-time and the regular feedback that they get about their learning. Now, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. We could assign a video for the students to watch and then assess their learning by giving them some multiple choice questions or open-ended questions and inserting them in the middle of the videos, which the students would have to compulsorily answer before they can move ahead. And Edpuzzle lets me do this by letting me control what the student is watching and how they are watching. They cannot skip over any part of the video. They've got to watch it in its entirety. Next slide, Pallavi. The next slide, please. Yeah, and again, it also gives me real-time data analysis. Like you could see here, I can watch, that whether they've watched the entire video or not, and whether they have turned in their assignments or not. And then I could also download all the grades and then, reuse this assessment again. So, all the points that I had discussed, they blend in beautifully when we're doing online learning. The next slide. Yeah, and we could also use formative assessments by, through flipped classroom approach, wherein I assign them a video to watch, and then I assess their learning, their understanding by assigning them a 3-ticket quiz. That's a Mentimeter quiz. I could also use Kahoot over here, or even Socrates would do very well. Now you could see here that it gives me a real-time data analysis, how the students have fared in this online test, because, a collective response on, how many of them have got the questions wrong and how many have got them right, to reteach my concept, or I could move ahead. And again, I could download the results and again, reuse my assessments again. Next slide, please. Yeah, and of course, not to mention that the students enjoy solving the questions in the form of a quiz. So yeah, it gives them an adrenaline rush. That's again another part of it. Next slide. Yeah, and now I want individualized responses because instead of giving a collective response, I cannot assess every student's learning through that. But if I want individualized responses, I could use Google Forms by giving them, true or false questions or MCQs, just 5 of them, and then I could get, real-time data analysis. The next slide, please. Yeah, now you can see here that I get a real-time data analysis of how the students have fared in the yeah, there was a power outage here. Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. Am I back again, Pallavi?
Yes, Chitra, we can hear you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, okay, yeah, right. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so we were discussing how it gives me a real-time data analysis. It gives me how my students have fared in the assessment. And here I could give individual feedback. Next slide, Pallavi. Or, I could, look at this, a question-wise analysis. I could get a, student-wise analysis, that shows me how many of them have got it right and whether, what concept I need to maybe reteach again. And here I could give individual feedback to the students, or I could give them instructional feedback if I find that many of them have got the same question wrong. So, a lot of things that I could be doing with my data analysis. Next slide. Yeah, and if I want to assess my students now during the learning, maybe when they're just like we do in a classroom situation, we throw across questions and ask them to come and, answer it on the board, solve the questions on the board. I could do that by integrating Peer Deck slides with my Google Slides. You can see now Peer Deck lets me, use any of these varieties of questions that I could insert. Then I give my students a joining link and a class code. The next slide. The next slide, Pallavi. Yeah, and now, and this is what the teacher's dashboard looks like, and I could have this as student-paced or even teacher-paced. And, the best part is that here, I can view all the student responses on my screen. If it's student-paced, obviously they'll be doing it at their own leisure, but if it's teacher-paced, I control the movement from screen to screen. And here, I could say it's an authentic assessment because, here the student cannot view others' responses, okay? And it also lets me give them a feedback in real time, okay, as to where they're going wrong and what they're getting right. So like I said, everything blends in just wonderfully here in online learning. The next slide. And I could also maybe give them some, assessments which they could post it up for me to review, okay? And I use Padlet for that sometimes. And I could give them, again, individual feedback, okay, like you could see here, I've given them some feedback, or the common observations also could be put up here. And, this wonderful thing is Padlet, I could be using it in asynchronous mode as well as in synchronous mode. Like I could use Padlet as an exit ticket also. Like if I want to, put up, assess my students' learning at the end of my day session, I could give them some self-reflection questions, and then they could post the answers to that. And again, yeah, in real time, I get to know what the students have understood from my session. Just a few days earlier, like Pallavi told me, like tools are a dime a dozen. But what is important is the way you choose to use the different tools, and basically your planning of the assessments and align the assessments in line with the learning outcomes that you expect from your students. That's it from me, Pallavi. Thank you for sharing my slide.
Pallavi, please unmute.
Thank you so much for that, Chitra, and for showing us such a wide range of formative assessments that you've been using with your classroom so successfully at that. We can see how engaged your students are, as well as how well you're being able to track their progress, which is such an important part of formative assessment. So we'd like to quickly stop and take a couple of questions that have come in. And some of these are to do with some of the tools that you've talked about. I'd like to first start by talking about the questions that have come in specifically for conducting online assessments as summatives. So these are some things that we'll also be covering in our presentation going forward, as well as self and peer assessments. But we'd like to take one question that came in specifically for Edpuzzle, and Chitra, the participant Harmeet would like to ask if you're using Edpuzzle in a standalone mode, or have you integrated it with Google Classroom or any other school LMS?
Answer the question. Yeah, I also use it. I provide the links in the Google Classroom so the student can access it. Yeah, that's the best way. Like I said, if I want to go in for a flipped classroom approach, yeah, that's the best thing. And you could also, use it in your real time in a synchronous mode also, both the ways.
I'd like to now invite our next speaker to talk a little bit about something that's come up very frequently already on the Q&A and the chat, which is self and peer assessments. So over to you, Abril, to talk about some amazing self and peer assessments that you've been doing.
Hi, good evening. I'm sorry. Good afternoon. Please give me 2 seconds to check. Okay, my name is Abril Dulude. I'm a design teacher, and in this situation, in this context, I'm heavily relying on peer and self-assessment. So why should we do peer and self-assessment? Assessment gives us a measurement of where students are in their learning, but peer and self-assessment helps students understand where they are by reflecting on their own achievement, which is different. We might know where they are, but it's important that they understand where they are so they can then move forward. And comparing with each other is always a dirty word, but if you think about it, it's more realistic that they compare with other students that when they compare to the standards that we set for them from professionals that might be too high and unattainable. But it is not enough. According to John Hattie, the real improvement happens when students not only understand where they are, but how to move forward. In fact, one of the questions in the chat just now was about that. Like, it's not only about assessing them and telling them, oh, this was great, or this is your level. It's also like, okay, from here, how do you go any further? So especially in this context, why is it important that students are peer and self-assessment? I have 240 students, and it became unsustainable to assess their work. When adding all the extras that we are dealing with at the moment, like our families, our household chores, and all the little details in our job requirements. So I had to rely on peer and self-assessment, but it had to be quality for me to actually rely on it. So how to do peer assessment? Well, it has to be taught. We cannot expect the students to do this naturally, because if we do, they are very hard critiques and they need to act with empathy, like you would do, no, with something like 2 stars and a wish. So we provide them with tools and scaffolding. I'm going to show you how I use the ladder of feedback. And more important, we need to provide them with clear success criteria. They need to go where they're going. When they are assessing each other, they need to know, I am giving you this feedback based on this goal that you need to reach. We need to teach them how excellence looks like. So how do we do that? We give them guidance and we expect better rather than what they consider is good. I use a lot of examples by students, because for me, that's something they can aim for, because they see a student work and they think like, okay, student did this, so I can do it myself. And you need to teach them how to identify quality. So this is what I do. I'm using the rubrics in Google Classroom. They are fantastic and they have cut my work in half. And when I designed a rubric, I am also including things like, I'm including feedback, but most important, I try to make, I explain how to move from one box to the next. So for example, here you can see that in order to move from proficient to mastery, I am giving him a little piece of advice, right? And then I ask them to assess the work by giving them examples from other students. And then I ask them to use the rubric, because the rubric is pointless if students cannot understand the rubric. The ladder of feedback works as follows. Once they understand the rubrics and they start giving each other feedback, we ask them to clarify, then value, then state concerns, and then make suggestions. We ask them to clarify because they need to know what the work was about, and give them value because you need something positive that puts kids' self-esteem up before you're going to tell them what they need to fix. We used to do this with Post-its in school, but now I'm using this tool, Jamboard, which is fantastic. Students can put their work in the center and then other students can put their Post-its around. I also created a Google Sheet. You can see here the code of ethics that I have created, which is important that you establish how you want tools to be used. But they already knew how to do the ladder of feedback and they already know the success criteria. So I pair them, and then through a Google Sheet, they've been sharing their digital work. And I have paired them highs with highs, medium with mediums. If you pair a high student with a low student, they will just get really frustrated because the high student will receive very feedback that is not going to help them, and the low one will be compared to something too much high, and they will feel frustrated. This is how my students are using Google Docs to then use that, apply the ladder of feedback, and you will see later that they ask a lot of questions and they give suggestions and they do value, they appreciate what the other students are doing. Here you have some other tools that you can check later in the resources that you could try for both of these objectives. And about self-assessment is pretty much the same. It has to be taught. A student can be very hard critic, so that you need to expect that they act with kindness rather than empathy, kindness towards themselves. You also provide them with tools and scaffolding and a clear success criteria. And more important, how do they give advice to themselves? Because it's easy for someone else to give you a suggestion, but if you knew what you need to do, why didn't you do it in the first place? So I created a very simple, clear assessment for them, but the most important is these words have meaning because they can find their own evidence of how they became. Why are they in this level? So if a student says is in meeting, which it means that he can use the skill with confidence, which is really simple. What does that mean? How does he know? Once they understand why they are where they are, is when they can start making suggestions. Oh, okay, I'm here because of this reason, and this is how I move forward. This is an example. The first two columns are my scaffolding, and the next one is the self-assessment. You will be able to read this sort of answers in more detail in the resources. So that's it from me. Thank you. If you have any other questions that I won't be able to answer here, you can contact me into this email. Pallavi, back to you.
Thank you so much for these amazing ideas on self and peer assessment, Abril. Some absolutely fantastic suggestions on how students can actually understand the importance of feedback when they're interacting with one another. The ladder of feedback was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for that. It really helps students scaffold feedback and not hurt each other in the process. So that's absolutely amazing. Thank you for that. I'd like to take another couple of questions that have popped up in the meanwhile. One very popular one that's emerging for maths teachers, and I thought, Chitra, you might like to take some of these again, which is on what kinds of tools can you use to assess the subjective aspects in math? So not just simple one short answer, but subjective aspects.
Yeah, you could use Google Docs for that. Okay, and even Google Forms does allow students, to type in like how we have the, the stepwise calculations and everything. Yeah, I do, give those kind of assignments to my students. So I use a combination of Google Docs or Google Forms. They are the best.
That's great. I was also wondering if any of you can also suggest some more tools where teachers are able to give students feedback then and there. So we do know that Google Form is one such option. Some questions have come up on feedback that can be given then and there. Any other ideas on some of those kinds of tools?
Yeah, of course, like I said, Mentimeter, of course, cannot be used for individualized response, but yeah, Kahoot lets you do that, and even Socrative, and even Pedec. Then we do have Nearpod. Yeah, so all of these tools do let you do that. That's
great. Kanika, did you also have some ideas on that?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to test the children for mathematics. We have Khan Academy as a non-profitable organization, which we are using initially for mathematics only and preferably for mathematics. What happens is we have practice questions, though they are only, the questions are in the objective form, but the child needs to solve them entirely and then summon the solution. And the child will not get any options for that. There are some questions in which the child will be getting options. There are some questions in which the child will not getting the options. So to test the child for subjective answers, the child needs to solve the question and then only can give final answer. So that is one way of testing using Khan Academy that I'll be presenting in my presentation right now.
Okay, that's great. So let's take a cue from that, Kanika, and let's get over to you with your presentation to talk us through some amazing things that you've been doing when it comes to summative assessments.
Thank you, Pallavi, and good evening, everyone. Our role as educators is not merely delivering lectures, right? We also need to ensure whether the learning outcomes have been achieved or not. So that can be done only through assessment. So with that, I'll just share my screen and begin with the assessment types that Pallavi ma'am had already told you in brief, that the difference between the formative and the summative assessments. Formative assessments are the ones which, the tests that evaluate how the learners are learning throughout the course. Whereas the summatives are the ones which the learners are, it evaluates what the learners have learned throughout the course. They've already learned. Then moving on to why do we use summative assessments? Summative assessments should be used because students should not be pushed through a grade. We require some check for understanding. Then when to use summative assessments, it should be given at the end of the chapter, unit, or a particular course. Summative assessments can have many forms. It can be given as projects, as essays, as tests, presentations, and clip teaching, which we all are using very effectively and on an extensive scale. Then we have benefits of summative assessments. We have huge benefits of summative assessments, both for the teacher and the taught. It motivates the students to study and pay closer attention. It allows the students to apply what he has learned. It helps the teachers to identify the possible gaps in teaching. That's because she might understand, okay, this is what I missed out in my lesson. This is what I would be including in my next lesson. Then it gives teachers valuable insights as to what worked with some set of children. It might not have worked with the other set. Then it contributes positively to learning outcomes. Tips to conduct summative assessments. The greatest challenge that we all faced as educators was how to design online assessments that would cater to both the gifted and the challenged students simultaneously. So I've just jotted down some of the tips that we can keep in mind while conducting summative assessments. We need to use a variety of assessment types, which will definitely give opportunities to the child to succeed, provide clear instructions, have students show work. They should not be penalized for minor mistakes that they make. Depth of knowledge, we need to analyze them to what content, we need to analyze them for the application of knowledge. Give enough test time. We need to give them enough test time so that they don't rush to pass. We need to give them enough study time to get better results. Assess what was covered in the class. Then question weightage should also be proportional to the time that is taken to do that particular question. With this, I'll move to the online tools that I at CMS and my teachers are using for summative assessments. Google Forms is the most extensively used one. Then we have Khan Academy, using this particularly for mathematics, but even we have English, we have sciences, computer teachers also using Khan Academy. Then we have Edpuzzle and we have Lightsail. I'll be going through one of them in detail. Google Forms allows us to create surveys, quizzes, tests to meet curriculum objectives. It allows us to ask various types of questions, be it MCQs, open-ended questions, closed-ended questions, etc. We can apply validation options to control the data entry. Google Forms are basically web-based, and it can be shared with the students just by creating a link. Like the link already gets created when you create a Google form, and you can just share that link. Data gathered using this form is typically stored in a spreadsheet. As you can see this on my slide, you can see the screenshots towards my right. You can even insert pictures or images to make your question paper, your assessments more clear to the students and more lively for them to understand and do them. You can also see the figures, math figures that we have made and we have incorporated them in our Google Forms. Google Forms are user-friendly and flexible in the sense that its link can be enabled or disabled at the desired time. It can be limited to only one response, as we see that the children tend to give multiple responses in case the question goes wrong in between. It can be restricted to a particular organizational domain. Like if you can see towards my the right, in the screenshot, it says that to ask for the email ID of the child when the child is appearing for it. So we can restrict the child, we can restrict it to a particular organization domain. Only those children can appear for this. It can be synchronously, it can be done synchronously as well as asynchronously. Like if you want to conduct a monthly test and you want the child to do the test just in front of you. So you can just create, like what we did as for our monthly test is we made Google Forms. We shared the link with the children then and there only when the class started. The children did the assessments and they submitted back. So this was synchronous way of doing the assessments, and it can also be done asynchronously if you want to just test them on a particular topic, and then you can just share it maybe in the evening hours so that the child gets to, the child can do it as according to his pace. Then it provides immediate feedback. All the responses are just stored in a spreadsheet. Analysis is very easier. These forms are reusable. You can again use them with another set of children. The order of questions can be different for different set of students. So these are the things that make Google Forms very flexible. Moving on to Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is an incredible, easy to use video platform which can be used by educators, by teachers, as we are also using them. You can make any video your lesson. And you just need to give a magic touch to that video and share it with your students. What you can do is you can just import a video. When you log in into Edpuzzle, you get some inbuilt videos. So either you take those videos, or if you want to import a video from anywhere, be it YouTube, be it Khan Academy, you can import the video from any source. You just need to give it your magic touch by adding notes. You can add voiceovers. You can embed questions in that, and the child is liable to answer those questions before he or she can proceed to a particular to complete that video. So in between, you can add these voiceovers and questions, and you can also share it as an assignment on Google Classroom. If you have class on Google Classroom, you can share it as an assignment, and you can track your students' progress out there. Khan Academy, this is what I was talking about. Khan Academy is a non-profitable organization. I just forgot to mention one thing about the Edpuzzle. It's again free of cost. That is the best thing about it. It's a free app. Then coming to Khan Academy, it offers practice questions, exercises, instructional videos, personalized learning dashboard for the students to learn at their own pace. It is changing education for the better by providing a free world-class education to anyone, anywhere. It's again, its resources are all free. They're available for free for to its users. So again, like steps to use Khan Academy, as you can see in the screenshot on the slide, there's a video explaining that how can you plot, how can you solve two simultaneous linear equations using a graph paper. Then steps to use Khan Academy, this I'll be explaining on the next slide. First, when you log into khanacademy.org, you first need to go to create a class. You can add a new class. You can rename it, and you can import this class from the Google Classroom also. If you have a class already made on a Google Classroom, you can import all the students from Google Classroom. Or a second way is to when you create a class code or a class link gets created. So what happens is you can just provide that link to your students, and they're able to join. So in my second slide, you'll be able to see that the students have joined. And then in the third part is to assign them. Suppose I've taught them algebraic expressions today. So maybe in the evening, I'll think of, okay, today I'll assign algebraic expressions to see whether they've understood or not. So if I've completed with the chapter, I'll go on with the final assessment that I want to see, okay, whether they've understood. So next step is assessment. And then you can also see, next step is assignment. And then you can also see the assessment scores, whether how many children have done. You can also give a due date to them. You can also see how many students have done it, how many did it correctly. If it's all 100, that means the child has scored, like if the child did it in the first attempt. You can even see that whether the child is able to do in the first attempt or maybe in the second attempt. That is also one of the features of Khan Academy. Then secondly, you can also see the learning minutes of the child. That's how many minutes is the child actually exploring Khan Academy. Total learning minutes give you the number of minutes that the child is exploring, and the learning minutes give you the time taken by the child to complete that particular assignment. Then moving on to Lightsail. Lightsail is a paid online reading platform which provides thousands of high quality fiction and non-fiction texts for free to the students to read. It helps to improve literacy outcomes by embedding assessments into books that the students want to read. The students' progress can be tracked by their Lexile scores, which depends on the accuracy of the assessments taken up by them while reading. So it's not basically like if I say that it's a reading platform, it's not only for English. You can even assign, like there's a feature content builder in which you can also assign them text, be it related to chemistry or physics or biology. Any text that you want to assign. Suppose the child has studied matter today and you want to assign that text to the child to see whether the child has understood or not. So you can just assign, you can take a PDF of that content, you can build that content in the content builder feature, and you can add questions to it. You can add questions in the form of multiple choice questions, in the form of short responses or extended responses. It's entirely up to you. And the child's result you can see in the terms of Lexile score. Lexile score is basically a numerical representation which will be able to which gives you the child's reading rate, the speed at which the child is reading. See, it's like initially we thought that how will the child, like the child might only flip the pages of the book and will not get to know whether the child has actually read it or not. So there's a way to know. If the child is reading very fast, the Lexile level goes down. If the child is reading very fast or slow, the Lexile level goes down. But if the child is reading at a correct pace, the Lexile level goes up. And it can also be with individual children. So it can also be used to test the comprehension skills of the child. So it is not basically only for English. You can also assign them text related to other subjects. So here are some of the evidences of children reading on light sail. If you can see at this one, the blanks in between. And when the child clicks on this, there's a question that pops up that the child needs to answer. And once he answers the correct question, then we can proceed. Okay, with this, I would just like to wrap up my presentation, quoting Grant Wiggins, that learners need endless feedback more than they need endless teaching. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that absolutely fantastic presentation, Kanika. Some amazing tools you've been using for summatives, and I think this has answered a lot of very, very important questions for our participants today about what kinds of tools are available for summative assessments. I think we've been able to resolve Pramodji's technical errors. So if I could just invite him back onto our presentations. And Pramodji, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, please. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely. You are.
Thank you
Please
very
go
much.
ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I was missing that my attendance is not being connected. Thank you very much. Especially thanks to Chitra and Kanika and Abrel. You have already covered most of the tools which I was planning to explain in my presentation. And some tools are still remaining. In spite of playing my presentation, I just want to tell you 2 or 3 more tools which are needed to be added. Kahoot is very good tool. This is free. And again, Nearpod is also, and Padlet is also. These are 3 more tools. I would request to you, please share my PPT with all of them. And these tools are also very simple, very valuable and free to use. And especially when pandemic started and school was shut down, teachers start working very well. Earlier, they were not familiar with this type of teaching, but they cope up with the things very well. If we see the government school system or the public school system, you can understand it's very difficult for them. We have lots of challenge. We have lots of challenge at various levels. First of all, infrastructure level challenge. The students teaching in private school, they have good infrastructure at their home. They have 3G data, 4G data, smartphone, mobile phone, internet, laptop, everything. But the students who are studying in public school, you cannot imagine. Okay, I just want to share you one reality with you. We have just finished a survey of our state, how many students are having smartphone. You cannot imagine, only 33% students are having smartphone facility available with them at least for 1 hour. If we say they don't have their own mobile phone, laptop, tablet, only 2% students are having laptop and tablet. And if we say internet facility or Wi-Fi facility, only 1% students are having this facility. So it's very big challenge. Infrastructure challenge is big challenge for the public school system. Another challenge, teacher training. The teacher traditionally, they are not familiar with this type of turning. You teachers are explaining very well. You are using very wonderful tools. I am very much thankful to you, your organization and your efforts. But in public school system, most of the teachers are not familiar with these things. And third challenge is parents, the mindset of the parents. During the pandemic, the parents of the private school children, they are very much worried about their study. They want them to continue with the study. They do not want to create any big gap. They want them to come up and cope up and make up with the curriculum. But in public school, you cannot find such type of things. But it doesn't mean that government is not doing anything. I just want to share you. We find very smart solution of this big problem. We come to know that even smartphone is not available. internet is not available, but television is available in every household. If we see the census of 2011, 93% household are having television. So we start our education with EduSat. In Haryana, we are having 4 EduSat channel, and we contact to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. We requested them to put our 4 EduSat channel in must carry list of the all cable TV operators, and they start broadcasting our EduSat channel on cable TV, and that's why we start reaching in every household. NCERT is also running 4 channel, Kishore Man channel, Panini channel, NIUS channel. So these 4 channels are also in must carry list of Tata Sky, Airtel, Dish TV, Videocon, and these private service provider or private DTH provider are also giving this facility, and they are telecasting these channels to every household. So now we are reaching to the students by television broadcast. But you know very well, this is one-way communication, and teaching doesn't mean one way. They are not eklavya of you. If you give them instruction and they start doing practicing, no, it's not possible. If it requires two-way communication, and that's why Kanika is explaining very well that we require one-to-one connection. If what is assessment? If we go with the pedagogical aspect, what is assessment? Assessment is not what student learn. Assessment is what about teacher taught him or her. It's assessment of a teacher, not the assessment of the students. So if we want to check what we are teaching, is it reaching to the students? So we have to do the assessment. So these are very wonderful assessment tools which are explained by the panelists. Another thing, another tool, Flipgrid. Yes, you can see on my screen. Flipgrid is a wonderful tool, and Kahoot. We start teacher training, we start online training, and we teach our teachers how to use Kahoot. Some of our teachers are already also participating in this. Avinasha is a teacher from Faridabad. She's also attending this webinar. I would like to ask Avinasha. Avinasha, you please give 1 minute to how you using the Kahoot and how you using some other tools for public school student with very low infrastructure, where they are having only feature phone, they are not having smartphone, they are not having laptop. These teachers are doing assessment with simple feature phone. So Pallavi, may I request to Avinasha to give only 1 minute. I hope she will give some very wonderful ideas.
Pramod sir, I'm not able to find Abhilasha on the
Okay.
list of individuals who are here on the panel.
Okay, no problem. So
Abhilasha, if you're here, if you could raise your hand, I will unmute you and give you a chance to share your learnings with us.
Okay, ma'am.
So during this webinar, I would request to all the private school teacher, all the organization, especially the.
Am I audible?
Yes, Avinasha.
Okay. Yes, thank you all the participants for giving an opportunity to throw light on some of the applications that we are being using. Kahoot is one of the application which we are using for engaging students in the quiz, and it's a application, game-based learning application, wherein we are providing some quiz questions to the students and they are answering in a fun and activity way. It's not a kind of a addictive activity, but yes, it engages the students and we are able to provide answers to the multiple questions. And it is also it also provides a library of the games installed in it, wherein we can have a live Kahoot groups also, wherein students can have the quizzes amongst themselves. So what basically we are doing, we are conducting a quiz competition. The winners are again forming a group, and the best block, best district, and best state runner-ups are going to come up. So this is a very good application being used by us. And apart from that, we are using Flipgrid also. It's also a video discussion platform wherein teachers are responding to the questions of the students there in the application itself. So it's a live session like people are having. So the same way we are having a session with the students and we are answering questions to the queries they are being asked to us. Thank you.
थैंक यू विनाशा। देखिए, जहां पर भी टीचर है और वो टीचर अगर इनोवेटिव है, अगर वो टीचर शानदार और वो सचमुच चाहता है कि इस मुसीबत के दौर में मुझे अपने बच्चे को पिछड़ने नहीं देना है, तो वो कोई ना कोई टूल निकाल लेते हैं। मैं एक बड़ा आसान सी चीज बताता हूँ, बड़ी इनोवेटिव है और समाल सोल्यूशन फॉर बिग प्रॉब्लम है। देखिए, हमारे टीचर ने क्या किया, बहुत इनोवेटिवली किया। उनके पास व्हाट्सएप में सारे बच्चे जुड़े हुए हैं, तो वो शाम उन बच्चों के पास कोई प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है, अनदर प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है, कोई सॉफ्टवेयर नहीं है जिससे वो ढूंढे। तो वो क्या करती हैं, शाम को व्हाट्सएप में एक क्वेश्चन डालती हैं ग्रुप में। जो बच्चा सबसे पहले रिप्लाई देता है उसको 10 मार्क्स, जो सेकंड रिप्लाई देता है उसको 8, उसके बाद 6, उसके बाद 4, और जितने भी बच्चे राइट आंसर देते हैं उनको 2 मार्क्स। तो इसके हिसाब से वो 20 क्वेश्चन हर रोज पुट करती हैं और उसके बाद हर बच्चे को कॉपी के ऊपर लिख के उन सब बच्चों का स्कोर कार्ड जनरेट करती हैं। तो जहां पर भी टीचर है, देखिए, इस पूरी की पूरी व्यवस्था में अगर किसी ने पूरे एजुकेशन सिस्टम को संभाला है तो वो टीचर ने संभाला है। इस पूरी व्यवस्था ने यह साबित कर दिया है कि बड़े बड़े स्कूल भवन, बड़े बड़े सॉफ्टवेयर, बड़ी बड़ी कंपनी, बड़े बड़े टूल कुछ भी नहीं है अगर उसके पीछे एक सेंसिटिव टीचर नहीं है। Wherever you have a very sensitive teacher, very innovative teacher, very positive teacher, they are finding their way how to teach. And teaching learning process is a continuous process, and they are making it possible during this pandemic. So now I'm open for the session. If any participant want to ask any question related to public school system, but before that I would like to request all of you, especially the team higher, you please give me the recorded presentation of your all webinar, because we have a EduSet telecast system. We will telecast this episode every Sunday so that teacher may watch these episode in every household, and they can see the best practices other teachers are doing. Another, जो टीचर आप यहाँ जुड़े हुए हैं, जो आप बहुत अच्छा प्रयास कर रहे हैं, आप भी अगर आपके पास बहुत शानदार वीडियो है, अगर आपके पास इंटरेक्टिव वीडियो है, आप प्लीज वो भी स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट गवर्नमेंट ऑफ हरियाणा को वो आप शेयर कीजिए। हम लोग अपने एजुसेट टेलीकास्ट पे चलाएंगे। आप यकीन कीजिए, हम लोग 1 करोड़ बच्चों तक पहुंचे हुए हैं, हम लोग 16 लाख घरों में हैं, हम लोग टीवी पे हैं, हम लोग सभी प्राइवेट और सरकारी जितने भी डीटीएच सर्विस प्रोवाइडर हैं, हम वीडियोकॉन पे भी हैं, हम लोग एयरटेल पे भी हैं, हम लोग टाटा स्काई पे भी हैं, हम लोग सब जगह हैं। और टीवी के हमारे चैनल हैं, तो हमारे चैनल पे हम लोग टेलीकास्ट करेंगे। मैं सचमुच चाहूंगा कि आप लोगों की जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं, आप लोग जो बनाते हो, इतना शानदार तरीके से काम कर रहे हो, आप प्लीज हमें दीजिए और पब्लिक स्कूल के बच्चों को भी उससे फायदा होगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच। ओवर टू यू ऑल। थैंक यू।
Thank you very much, Pramod sir, for those amazing ideas. And it's wonderful to see how the government of Haryana is reaching out to all students and ensuring that learning is going on uninterrupted, even in these very, very difficult times. So congratulations to you and to all the efforts that you and your team are making. Thank you so much for being here with us today and for sharing these great ideas. So with that, we'd like to wrap up today's discussion. I'd like to congratulate all the panelists for all the great work that they're doing in their classrooms. And thank you all for joining us here today and for sharing these amazing ideas. Manit, over to you for the closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. Thank you to all the panelists, to Abril, Chitra, Kanika, Pramodji. Very, very inspiring. It's very heartening to see that despite all odds, you're making all of this possible in government schools, and you have all our support. FICCI Arise is not simply a forum of elite private schools. We were born to reimagine school education, and when we're talking about school education, that equity is extremely important for us to ensure that every kid gets equal opportunities. In our country, we may still be very far away from it, but Pramodji, the initiatives in Haryana government really give us that level of hope, and we'd be happy to collaborate in every possible way. Thank you, panelists, for the number of tools that you've shared, and we're going to really share this video out to ensure that all teachers, not just in the country, but across the globe are able to benefit from your experiences. Thank you so much. Thank you all viewers. And thank you for your patience with some of the technology snags that we had today. Thanks for a very engaging session, panelists.
Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.